On Friday, June 2nd, Governor Phil Scott stopped in Dorset to recognize the 220th anniversary of the Dorset Inn, which, as the official state proclamation he read and presented to managing partner Steve Bryant noted, the inn was the longest continuously operated lodging establishment in the state of Vermont.
Now therefore it be resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the Dorset Inn on its 220th anniversary and honors the current owners, Steve and Lauren Bryant.
The governor was introduced by Representative Linda Sullivan of Dorset. They addressed a crowd of about 30 attendees at the ceremony at the Dorset Rising Eatery. Following the proclamation, a discussion began, followed by a question and answer session about the state budget and the looming question of how to manage a health insurance changeover affecting the state's public school teachers.
I'll just go over a little bit about why we're in the position we're in today and give you a little bit of historic data. When I was first elected, I campaigned on the promise that I was going to pay attention to the economy because I think so. When I presented my budget in January, I presented one that was balanced, didn't raise taxes and fees, and lived with less money than we had last year. Because the reality is, when I took office, we were in the hole by $70 million over last year. Even after raising taxes and fees over the last few years, we still were facing a deficit when we came into to office. So we had to do something dramatic. We had to issue something and make sure that we were realistic about what we could spend. So that's when I proposed in my budget that we asked the teachers and employees, education employees, to pay 20% of their benefits. So it was an 80-20 split, which is what I proposed in the budget, because our state employees pay 20%. And what's happened throughout the state is that teachers and other employees in education, it's full range. Anywhere from some are paying nothing, zero, towards their healthcare costs, which isn't realistic, I don't believe, in this day and age. What I didn't realize was because of the Affordable Care Act, that there was going to be this so-called Cadillac tax imposed on the teachers' health care benefits. So this has been planned for a couple of years. This is no surprise. They've been preparing themselves for it. In fact, they had this organization called VHI, which was an administrator, a neutral administrator, that was going to impose these new plans that we're going to install. And so that they came up with a number of plans, but they said we could save $75 million if we implement these. Now,
And the governor wants to use about $50 million of that to finance the insurance plan, while using the rest to lower statewide property taxes. But that plan has run into resistance from the teachers' union, among others, who see it as undermining traditional collective bargaining between local school boards and local teacher unions. Under the governor's plan, the state would assume responsibility for negotiating health insurance across the board with the teachers on a statewide basis. The teachers would contribute to financing 20% of their insurance coverage, with the state picking up the rest, and the savings are premised on that 80-20% split. But some school boards have already concluded negotiations with their teachers, and not all have achieved that 20% level, sometimes settling for less. The governor made his case for this measure, as well as his hopes for a state budget, which will also be up for a vote in a special legislative session scheduled for later this month on June 21st and June 22nd. But the governor was also questioned by several members of the audience, some of them local school directors, who raised questions about whether or not the plan could be implemented in the exact manner he had proposed.
The problem is we don't approach the savings that were projected. We don't approach the $13 million per year. The amount of money that we're supposed to save is $250,000, and we're only saving $70 the first year. So if they enact that law, we've already offered contracts. We can't let teachers go, so we have to take it away from the program. I don't know where we get that money.
I'm not advocating it. There was an approach, maybe there's some confusion as well, because at one point the Senate passed their budget and said, we're going to take $13 million from you. You figure out how you're going to do it. That's not our approach,
Right.
And that's not what I'm advocating for
Right.
at all. And I don't want to see kids have to cut programs because of it. That's not my intent. It's just really to take advantage of the savings, again, once in a lifetime opportunity that is before us. Because if we don't, it's lost. It's absolutely lost.
The cost of education, specifically the cost of teachers, and that might be healthcare as a part of that. And so, why are we not focused on solving that issue as opposed to like I can't remember the act that came out, 46, which is about merging school boards to make maybe a 2% savings, when the real issue is how do we get more for less out of our current educators' salaries and healthcare, and are we just throwing money and bodies at the problem?
Yeah.
Do we ever, and just one last thing is, I can tell you later, but we ever consider looking at overhauling the whole thing and going like with the Finland model, which is effectively increase salaries and reduce the number of teachers? It seems to me that we keep just saying, all right, we'll just keep hiring more teachers for $35,000 if you can't afford to live here, and add them to classrooms. Why couldn't we get a higher quality teacher and pay that individual $100,000 instead of $65,000 and have that one person do it?
I said during my either State of the State or budget address that it's not about teachers' pay for me. I want teachers to make more money.
Sure.
Just what you're saying, because a good quality teacher is worth every penny, right? So what we need to do is we have to look at the number of the teacher-to-student ratio. In fact, it was about reducing or changing the ratio, the student-teacher ratio. Stuff, but he wouldn't have to change it a whole lot to recoup some fairly significant savings.
Well, and I think and you also increase the quality of education, which then draws people back to the state.
Well, I think that's part of our answer as well. What I've said is, if we can have a cradle-to-career education system, then we can put more money into early childhood care and learning, and more money, because this is what we do, right? We're spending $1.6 billion. We spend this much for K-12 education. We spend this much for early childhood care and learning. We spend this much for higher education, but this much for K-12. What we need to do is not spend more money, spend more the money that we're spending right now more wisely, and take that money that's there and spread it out. Put some more. I think more in early childhood care and learning will have tremendous benefits.
On your comment that the current budget doesn't take advantage of anything, I see a thread in that isn't unique to your governorship, Governor, and I really appreciate you raising these issues. But for several governors now, it seems to be the idea that you can't trust local school boards to intelligently use whatever savings we can squeeze out of the system. And as a local school board member, I'm not real happy about that when nobody, either in the governor's office or the legislature, has, at least in media reports, identified any school board that's wasting money.
What I'm trying to do isn't against the union. It's not against the school boards either. I believe they work very, very hard. But again, this I can't emphasize enough. This once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If we don't take advantage of it, it will be lost. So I just see it as a moment in time where a year or two down the road, if we don't take advantage of it, we're going to be looking back and saying, I wish we had. I wish we'd done this. Because I guarantee if we don't, next year, probably next year, maybe the following year, tax rates are going to increase again.
For the GNET TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.